Outside the tall glass windows of the Silver Cove Hotel, a violent coastal storm whipped heavy rain against the balcony. Inside room 412, the situation was barely any calmer. The front desk had consolidated guests after a power surge disabled half the building. That left Victoria Lane, the creative director of my design firm, and me sharing the absolute last available suite. The room contained one king-sized bed, one small accent chair that looked like a decorative torture device, two heavy leather suitcases, and two adults attempting to pretend everything was normal. I looked at the tiny chair in the corner, crossing my arms. I will sleep there. Victoria paused, untying her soft cream cardigan. She wore an elegant slip dress beneath it, her dark hair cascading loosely over her shoulders. Ryan, you are 6 feet tall. I will fold, I said calmly. Like furniture? She asked, arching one eyebrow. I am remarkably adaptable, Victoria, I grunted. Victoria let out a sudden, breathless laugh. She looked around the chaotic room, at her open laptop, file folders, and unbagged clothes. I shook my head with a smirk. You know what your real problem is, Victoria? Please, Ryan, she murmured, stepping closer. Enlighten me. You don't need another project assistant, I joked dryly. You need a husband. Victoria froze. 1 second, 2 seconds. Then, a slow, dangerous smile spread across her lips. Victoria stepped into my personal space, placed both hands firmly against my shoulders, and gave me a playful, decisive push. My knees hit the mattress, and I sat down heavily on the edge of the bed. Victoria stood over me, her hazel eyes dancing with an electric intensity. Then be mine, she whispered. I sat completely frozen. Victoria. Her smile softened, and she immediately took a step back. Too far. I looked up at her, my pulse hammering against my ribs. That's not the problem. Then what is? She whispered softly. My name is Ryan Foster. I am 36 years old, a senior project manager at Oak Ridge Design Studio, and the woman standing 3 feet away from me is my boss. The exact woman I have been desperately trying not to fall in love with for over a year. What I didn't know then was that in less than 16 hours, Victoria would be forced to choose whether to accept a corporate promotion that would move her over 1,400 kilometers away from me. Nor did I realize that her joke on the edge of that bed was about to break down 4 years of. 6 hours before Victoria pushed me onto the hotel bed, we were sitting in a quiet, sunlit conference room in Oak Ridge, reviewing final plans for an interactive museum exhibition. I had been working at Oak Ridge Design Studio for 6 years, and for the past 4, I served as the primary project manager assigned to Victoria Lane. Our very first meeting 4 years ago set the exact tone for our relationship. Victoria had just been appointed creative director. She stood at the head of the conference table, presenting an ambitious, immersive lighting concept for a flagship client. The entire executive team nodded like bobblehead dolls, desperate to impress her. I waited until she finished, leaned back in my chair and said calmly, "Beautiful. Also completely impossible to fabricate in 6 weeks." The room went dead silent. Victoria turned her sharp hazel eyes toward me, tilting her head. "How long, Mr. Foster?" 9 weeks minimum, I answered without flinching. "You get 7, she countered smoothly. 8, I bargained. "Deal," she smiled. From that exact day onward, we became an unbeatable production team. She brought the visionary, artistic chaos. I brought the structural logic. We developed a rhythm that felt almost telepathic. I knew she drank her coffee black with a single splash of oat milk, but routinely forgot to drink it until it went ice cold on her desk. She knew I only spun the silver band on my pinky finger when a contractor was lying to my face about a delivery timeline. "You worry professionally, Ryan," she would tease softly when we worked late. "Someone has to compensate for your structural optimism, Victoria." I would grunt back. "That sounded almost affectionate, Foster." She would smirk over her reading glasses. "Don't report me to human resources, Lane," I would reply smoothly. Underneath our effortless banter lay an unspoken boundary I guarded with my life. 3 years ago, My previous serious relationship ended because I worked 60-hour weeks, prioritizing site emergencies over weekend plans. My ex-girlfriend had looked at me on her way out the door and said, "You always find time to solve everyone else's problems, Ryan, but you wait for love to become a problem before you give it any attention." I made a firm vow back then. Never date a direct colleague, and never enter a relationship unless you are certain you can give it the space it deserves. Victoria carried her own scars. At 29, she had been engaged to a man who demanded she scale back her creative ambitions and settle into a traditional homemaker role. Before breaking off the engagement, he famously told her, "I just want us to have a normal, quiet life, Victoria." Victoria had replied, "I want a life too. I just don't want to make myself a smaller version of who I am to have it." Her core rule was simple. I will never love a man if that love demands I shrink my life. We were two guarded adults hiding behind professional titles, completely unaware that a coastal storm was about to strip away every defense mechanism we possessed. The trip to Silver Cove was supposed to be a routine 3-day site assessment for a new resort development. Originally, 3 other team members were scheduled to travel with us. However, an urgent structural issue at a local construction site forced them to stay behind. It left just Victoria and me traveling north in my silver SUV. "You can stop checking your project calendar every 6 minutes, Ryan," Victoria noted playfully as I navigated the winding coastal highway. "I am reviewing contractor schedules, Victoria," I replied smoothly, keeping my eyes on the road. "You're twitching," she teased. "I am maintaining professional vigilance," I grunted. Victoria let out a soft laugh, leaning her head against the passenger headrest. "You are an absolute nightmare on road trips, Foster." "Which is precisely why you invited me, Lane," I smirked. By 4 o'clock, the calm ocean weather dissolved into a fierce coastal gale. Torrential rain slammed against the cliffs, triggering localized mudslides that prompted county police to close the main highway back to Oak Ridge. To make matters worse, a transformer exploded near the northern wing of the Silver Cove Hotel, killing power to half the building. The front desk manager looked at us apologetically. "We have consolidated all remaining functional rooms, Ms. Lane. I have exactly 1 executive suite left on the dry side of the building." Victoria looked at me. I looked at Victoria. "1 room," she noted dryly. "Apparently," I muttered. "We are mature corporate adults, Ryan," she said, smoothing her blazer. "We can share a suite for 1 night without making it weird." "That is precisely what people say right before making wildly weird decisions, Victoria," I replied deadpan. "Do you consider sharing oxygen with me a bad decision, Foster?" she teased, arching an eyebrow. "Ask me tomorrow morning," I grunted, taking the key card. The suite was spacious, elegant, and absurdly romantic. It featured a stone fireplace, a balcony overlooking the ocean, and a single massive king-sized bed. The only other seating option was a tiny velvet accent chair in the corner. "Chair," I declared instantly, setting my duffel bag on the luggage rack. "Bed," Victoria countered, kicking off her heels. "Ryan, I promise not to attack my senior project manager in his sleep." "That is a remarkably comforting corporate policy, Victoria," I muttered, unbuttoning my cuffs. We established our core house rules within 5 minutes. Rule number 1. No project talk after 9 o'clock at night. Rule number 2. No corporate rank or boss dynamics exist inside this room. Rule number 3. Ryan does not ruin his spine on a decorative velvet chair. Rule number 4. Neither of us reads any symbolic meaning into sharing a bed if it comes to that. We agreed to rule number 4 far too quickly, and deep down, both of us knew we were lying to ourselves. By 8:30 that evening, the storm outside raged against the glass, but inside room 412, the stone fireplace glowed with a warm amber light. Room service had delivered a simple dinner of roasted chicken, warm bread, and red wine. Victoria sat cross-legged on the rug near the hearth, staring intently at her glowing laptop screen while sipping wine. I stepped out of the bathroom, having changed into a dark cotton t-shirt and gray lounge pants. I stood over her, crossing my arms. Rule number 1, Victoria, I said sternly. It is currently 8:47. Victoria didn't look up. Technically, I have 13 minutes of work time remaining, Foster. You are exploiting an administrative loophole, I noted, stepping forward and gently reaching down to close her laptop screen. Victoria gasped, looking up in mock outrage. Did you just forcibly close your creative director's computer? After 9 o'clock, I am simply sharing a room with a very stubborn woman, I replied smoothly, handing her a plate of food. 12 minutes early, Ryan, she noted, taking the plate with a subtle smirk. That is a severe breach of protocol. Consider it executive intervention, I muttered, sitting down across from her. Beneath our quick banter lay a heavy, electric comfort. Without the rigid boundaries of the Oak Ridge office, the invisible wall between us was rapidly dissolving. A few minutes later, Victoria began searching frantically through her leather tote bag. Where are my reading glasses? Front outer pocket, I answered immediately. Right side. Victoria reached into the pocket, pulled out her glasses, and stared at me in disbelief. How on earth did you know that? You put them there every time you finish a site blueprint, I said casually. Victoria leaned her chin on her hand, her hazel eyes searching mine under the firelight. You've been keeping tabs on my physical habits, Foster? I manage complex projects, Lane. I gave my standard defense. I notice structural details. My reading glasses are not a structural detail, Ryan, she whispered softly, her tone dropping all sarcastic edge. Debatable, I murmured, taking a sip of water to hide the heat on my neck. An hour later, Victoria changed out of her business attire. When she walked back out, my throat went dry. She wore a soft, cream-colored knitted dress that fell gracefully to her knees, paired with a light cardigan. Her dark hair was loose, and the warm firelight caught the soft curves of her silhouette. She didn't look like the formidable creative director who commanded boardroom meetings. She looked warm, human, and entirely accessible. She caught me staring. Are you all right, Ryan? Fine, I grunted, quickly looking back at the fire. That sounded remarkably painful, she noted, sitting on the edge of the hearth. I am simply adjusting to seeing you without 3 mobile phones attached to your hands, I lied smoothly. One phone is currently charging, she teased gently. There is hope for me yet. Truly a miracle, I smirked. Victoria quieted down, swirling her wine glass gently. Can I ask you a personal question, Ryan? This feels like a human resources violation in the making, I noted. Go ahead. Why don't you date? I date, I answered defensively. When? She pressed. Name the last person you took out on a real date. 18 months ago, I admitted quietly. It lasted 3 weeks. Why did it end? Because I realized I was spending dinner calculating how quickly I could get back to my drafting desk, I said honestly. She deserved someone who actually wanted to be in the room with her. I looked over at Victoria. What about you? Why does a brilliant creative director stay completely single? Because I tried shrinking my life for a man once, she admitted quietly. I spent 4 years turning down traveling creative projects because my ex wanted a quiet homemaker. I swore I would never shrink myself to fit into a relationship again. She looked at me, spinning her thumb ring nervously. I don't need a man to save me, Ryan. I'm looking for a partner who isn't afraid of a woman who stands tall. Her raw accuracy hit me right in the chest. I looked at her chaotic workspace. The laptop, color swatches, charging phones, and unbagged clothes. A warm, playful impulse washed over me. You know what your real problem is, Victoria? Please, Ryan, she murmured, stepping closer to where I stood near the bed. Enlighten me. You don't need another project assistant, I joked dryly. You need a husband. Victoria froze. 1 second. 2 seconds. Job description. Husband. I continued teasing. Responsibilities include removing your laptop after 9 p.m., finding your reading glasses, and making sure you actually eat dinner. Victoria took a slow step forward. Any other duties? Pancake making on Sunday mornings, I murmured, my heart hammering. You're remarkably qualified, she whispered, stepping right into my space. I wasn't formally applying lane. I breathed into the narrow space between us. Too late, Foster, she whispered back. She placed both hands firmly against my shoulders and gave me a playful, decisive push. My knees hit the mattress, and I sat down heavily on the edge of the bed. Victoria stood over me, her eyes shining with mischief and raw longing. Then be mine, she whispered. I sat completely frozen. Victoria. Her smile softened, and she immediately took a step back, giving me room to breathe. Too far. I looked up at her, my pulse hammering. That's not the problem. Then what is? She whispered softly. The problem, I choked out, my voice dry, is that I don't know if you're actually joking. Victoria quieted down completely. She simply stared into my eyes, her breath catching softly in the quiet, fire-lit room. Our comfortable 4-year joke had officially collided with the absolute truth. An hour after Victoria pushed me onto the edge of the bed, a secondary power fluctuation killed the room's overhead lights, plunging the suite into near total darkness. Only the amber glow of the fireplace illuminated the space between us. We sat on opposite ends of the sofa near the hearth, the air thick with tension. Neither of us had directly addressed her sentence, then be mine, but it hung between us like a physical object. Suddenly, Victoria's mobile phone chimed on the coffee table. A high-priority email notification illuminated her screen in the dim light. I didn't mean to read her private messages, but the header was unavoidable. Executive appointment confirmation, Regional Creative Director, Westport Expansion Studio. My stomach dropped into a cold, hollow abyss. Westport. It was a major expansion hub located over 1,400 kilometers away on the opposite side of the country. Victoria slowly reached down, picked up her phone, and locked the screen. She didn't look at me. She simply stared into the dying embers of the fireplace. What is Westport, Victoria? My voice sounded rough. Victoria swallowed hard, keeping her eyes fixed on the fire. The parent board offered me the regional chair for our new expansion studio in Westport. It requires an on-site physical residency for 12 months. My chest tightened into a cold, icy knot. When did you get the offer? 3 weeks ago, she whispered. I have to give them my official decision by 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. My immediate knee-jerk habit flared up instantly. My old defensive instincts erected a wall around my heart to protect myself from vulnerability. That's an extraordinary career leap, Victoria, I said smoothly, taking a step back toward the kitchenette. You should definitely accept it. You've worked your entire professional life for a flagship directorship. Victoria let out a sharp, bitter laugh, glaring at me with white-hot anger. There it is. What? I asked, taken aback by her reaction. The safe, polite answer, she snapped, standing up and taking 3 fast strides toward me until she was standing less than a foot away. You did it again, Ryan. You put on your professional manager voice and made the decision for me before I even finished my sentence. I am trying to be supportive of your career, I argued, raising my voice slightly over the storm outside. You are protecting yourself, she countered, her voice trembling with emotion. You've known me for 4 years, Ryan, but the moment things get slightly complicated, you build a wall and push me away so you don't have to risk getting hurt. Her raw, accurate words knocked the wind right out of my lungs. She was undeniable right. I was using nobility as armor to avoid emotional vulnerability. I didn't say, then be mine an hour ago because I was feeling playful. Ryan, she sobbed quietly, tears glistening in her eyes. I've been hopelessly in love with you for over a year. Ever since the night you stayed late in the workshop to refabricate an entire display wall, so I wouldn't get blamed for a supplier error. I stood completely frozen in the quiet room. I don't want to be just another project you managed efficiently. Ryan, she cried out softly, taking both of my calloused hands in hers and squeezing them tightly. I want to know if you are brave enough to tell me what you actually want. Tears stung my own eyes as her confession shattered my remaining defensive walls into dust. I want you to stay. My voice broke, the rough truth tearing past my throat. I want to wake up next to you on Sunday mornings. I want to spend 40 years complaining about your cold coffee. I am hopelessly, terribly in love with you, creative director. Victoria let out a half-sob, half-laugh, leaning her forehead against mine. Took you long enough, Foster. I didn't wait another second. I reached up, cupped her warm face between my hands, and kissed her. A deep, electric kiss that wiped away 4 years of office boundaries and suppressed longing. When we finally pulled back, breathing heavily in the amber firelight, her phone chimed sharply on the coffee table. An automated reminder flashed on screen. Westport offer acceptance deadline, 15 hours remaining. By 7 o'clock the following morning, county road crews had cleared the mudslide, officially opening traffic back to Oak Ridge. The isolated, warm bubble of Silver Cove had burst. As we sat at the small kitchen island in our suite sipping fresh coffee, my immediate knee-jerk habit tried to surface again. If Westport is what you've worked for your whole life, Victoria, you have to take it, I said softly, staring into my mug. I refuse to be the man who keeps you tethered to a regional office. Victoria set her coffee mug down with a sharp clack against the quartz counter. If you try to play the noble martyr one more time, Ryan, I swear I will throw this hot coffee straight at your head. I blinked, caught completely off guard. I am trying to be unselfish. You are deciding for me again, she snapped, leaning across the counter. I am 33 years old. I am not asking for your permission to have a career, and I am not asking you to quit your job and follow me. I am asking if you are brave enough to build a real plan with me. Don't push me away and call it love. Her words knocked the wind right out of my sails. She was entirely right. I was using nobility as armor to avoid the hard work of building a complex, adult relationship. So how do we do this? I asked, looking her straight in the eye. No drama, no noble sacrifices. Just real life. We pulled out a legal pad and sat down together to map out 3 realistic scenarios. Option 1. Victoria moves to Westport full-time for 12 months. Result. The 1,400-kilometer distance would severely strain a brand new relationship, and neither of us wanted pure long distance. Unacceptable. Option 2. Victoria flatly declines the board offer. Result. She sacrifices a massive career milestone, and deep down, a part of her might eventually resent me for it. Unacceptable. Option 3. The hybrid leadership strategy. Victoria realized she had been operating under the corporate assumption that a creative director had to physically sit in the target office 5 days a week. Why am I trying to run a firm like it's 1985? She murmured, her hazel eyes lighting up with professional clarity. She decided to counter-offer the board. She would oversee the Westport launch on a compressed hybrid schedule, spending 6 weeks on site for initial setup, followed by a rotating schedule of 2 weeks in Westport and 2 weeks working remotely from the Oak Ridge main office each month. She would also promote Marcus, her senior design lead, to branch manager in Westport, delegating daily tasks so the entire branch wouldn't rely solely on her physical presence. Meanwhile, I made my own professional commitments. To eliminate workplace hierarchy conflict, I officially agreed to request a transfer of my direct reporting line to our studio's operations director, David Vance. Victoria would no longer be my direct supervisor, eliminating any potential human resources conflict or perceived favoritism. We established our core relationship rules. 1. No saying "I'm fine" when something is actually bothering you. 2. No canceling a scheduled visit without immediately booking the makeup date. 3. Every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. is an uncancelable, 2-hour dinner date, whether in person or over video link. 4. After 3 months, we'll evaluate the hybrid arrangement together, no endless limbo. At 8:43 a.m., 17 minutes before her official deadline, Victoria sat on the edge of the hotel bed. Her phone rested in her hand, displaying her formal counter-proposal email to executive management. She looked over at me, her hazel eyes filled with excitement and nerves. If I press send, Ryan, we're starting a real relationship with a 6-week separation. I don't care about 6 weeks, Victoria. I smiled softly, wrapping my arms around her waist and resting my chin on her shoulder. I've been in love with you for over a year while sitting 40 feet away across a hallway. Distance isn't going to stop us now. Victoria let out a breathless laugh, tapped send, and submitted her counter-proposal. At 8:51 a.m., her phone chimed with an official response from the executive chairman. Counter-proposal approved. Hybrid leadership schedule finalized. Before she could speak, I unlocked my own cell phone and showed her my screen. It was an airline booking confirmation for a round-trip ticket to Westport for the 3rd weekend of her 6-week setup. Victoria stared at the screen in disbelief. You booked a flight before I even clicked send? I'm trying a brand new lifestyle rule. I smirked, kissing her cheek softly. What's the rule? Deciding before I'm 100% sure, I whispered. 14 months later, autumn light painted the glass windows of the Silver Cove Hotel in rich shades of amber and gold. The hybrid arrangement hadn't been an effortless fairy tale. We dealt with delayed flights, spotty video calls, and exhausting workdays. There was one painful Friday in month 3 when Victoria had to cancel our dinner date due to an emergency site collapse in Westport. I was deeply disappointed. In the past, my habit would have been to shut down, say I'm fine politely, and retreat behind my walls. But instead of hiding, I called her immediately, admitted how lonely and frustrated I felt, and booked a flight to visit her the following Friday. We learned that real commitment isn't about avoiding friction. It's about refusing to let fear make decisions for you. Victoria successfully launched the Westport studio and built a brilliant local management team, allowing her to transition back to the Oak Ridge main office full-time. To mark our 1-year anniversary, we returned to Silver Cove, booking the exact same suite, room 412. As rain tapped softly against the balcony glass, Victoria walked out of the bathroom wearing an elegant emerald dress, looking breathtaking under the warm firelight. She looked over at the single, massive king-sized bed, then looked at me standing near the hearth. Interesting room choice, Foster. They were completely out of decorative velvet chairs, Lane. I grinned. Victoria laughed softly, stepping toward me. Should I push you onto the bed again? Absolutely not, I said, stepping forward before she could tease me further. I reached into my canvas jacket pocket, pulled out a small velvet box, and opened it to reveal a simple, stunning diamond ring. Victoria gasped, her hand coming up to cover her mouth as tears of pure joy filled her hazel eyes. A year ago, I joked that you needed a husband because you forgot to eat dinner and left your reading glasses everywhere. I said, my voice thick with emotion. The truth was, I was just a terrified man looking for an excuse to tell you I wanted to take care of you for the rest of my life. I took a deep breath, looking into her eyes. Victoria Lane, will you marry me? Victoria burst into tears, throwing her arms around my neck and kissing me deeply right there by the hearth. Yes, Ryan. 1,000 times, yes. When Victoria first pushed me onto that hotel bed and joked that I should be hers, we both pretended it was just a playful distraction. What I learned was that real love isn't about managing risks or staying safe. It's about having the quiet courage to open your heart, step forward, and say yes to the person who makes your life complete. What a beautiful, inspiring reminder that second chances in love are always worth the courage it takes to speak up. Do you think Ryan was right to keep his feelings hidden for over a year out of fear of workplace drama? Or should he have been brave enough to tell Victoria the truth much sooner? How can professional couples better navigate long-distance career opportunities without sacrificing their individual growth or their relationships? We would love to hear your perspective and personal stories in the comments below. If this story brought joy to your heart today, please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and share this video with someone special in your life.